Hello and welcome to another episode of the Molten Truth. I am your host, Zoey Michaels. And before we get started today, because I often forget to ask for it at the end of a program, if you have been watching any of our episodes, or even if you're new to it, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe. If in the end you decide you don't like us, you can always unsubscribe, but get it out of the way and let's rock and roll. Um, so for those who have not ever seen the Molten Truth, our goal is just to have a great conversation. Some of our guests have had some rough times in their life and it's taken them in different directions. Others are just shining in whatever situation they're in. And today's guest happens to be a fellow author and podcaster. Holly, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Zoe. I'm super happy to be here. It's a perfect day for this, to have a great conversation.
Right, as long as we've got electricity and some heat, we are good to go.
Yes, and a warm drink. Yeah.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. I might even sneak another cup of coffee, or at least another sip of my cup of coffee before our episode is over, before it gets
Yeah.
cold on me. But um, I purposely chose not to say your last name because I have a feeling I would butcher it. So for our audience, can you give us your name?
Yes, it's Holly B. Gutwillinger. And you could say whatever you want. I've heard every version of that name and it's all fine with me. So no worries here.
I get that. We get worked up about it. I get people in my day job that if they're calling on behalf of someone else, if they're not sure how to pronounce the name, they don't just try their best. They start spelling it. And since we're in the same
Mm,
computer system and they give me other identifiers, I'm just like, please just attempt to say it. Please stop spelling at me. I promise I will figure it out. It's right here on my screen. I'm just looking
yes.
for you to confirm
Yeah.
what I'm looking at on my screen.
Well, I've even had so many versions of Holly now that I'm guilty of it too. Like if they ask me after the third time, I spell it out because
Yeah.
there aren't that many versions of Holly, but it's amazing what you can create.
So true. I
Yeah.
do think that unless you've got a lot of people with the same last name and you need to find someone's first name, I get so amused at people who call me, give me their last name, and then spell their first name. Because, usually when
Yeah.
you're looking at something, it's in order by
Yeah.
last name. I don't need the
True.
spelling of your first name. If you're concerned about it, well, I'm sorry. I hope your life treats you more kindly, but
Yeah. But we
but
get
that is the
so
age we're
attached
in.
to these. Yeah. And then we get so attached to these things, especially our name, right?
Yeah.
So,
Think maybe that's because our parents were so intent on giving us unique names that that's what
mhm.
caused all this.
True. True.
You know, I've got a friend. Her name is Erin, and of course, there's already a couple variations on how you would spell that. But they wanted something really different, so they went in the direction of like airplanes. So the way they spell her Erin is very different from the normal,
Right. Right.
which is cool. But it's just I think it's probably why we have people spelling their names, being
In so
sure that
many
we know
different ways.
which one they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny. Anyway,
Oh
as I
my
take us
goodness.
on this tangent and rabbit hole, but that is the nature of the Molten Truth. We just kind of go
That's
wherever
right.
the river takes us, right?
I love it.
So, did I understand correctly from your bio that you have recently released a book?
Yes, well, it is scheduled to formally be released on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, and because it's a love letter to my dogs. So it's well on its way, and I've had some ARC readers looking at it and giving me their feedback. So we are very, very close now.
That is wonderful. So, are these dogs, are they just, house pets, or is there more to it than just love of here's my pet in my home?
Yes, so it's a novel, and it started out as what somebody told me was called autofiction. So I was writing. Well, let me take you back a little bit further than that. I have two dogs. They were rescued from a shelter, and I've had them for almost 12 years. We think, you never know the ages, right? And I've always had dogs. But these two in particular have a lot of extra needs, let's say. And so Sully is the shepherd mix. He's very timid, afraid of doorways, afraid of everything, people, basically everything. Whereas Cash is more assertive and is not afraid of anything. So, I've been trying to do all the things these past 10, 11 years. Fix them. What can I do to help you? Dog obedience, all of that. And one day, Sully was sort of bouncing towards me, which he doesn't typically do. He just lays out in the grass and enjoys his happy, quiet life. But on this day, he was bounding towards me and his ears were flopping and it was so cute. And I love his tail. He's got this big bushy black tail and it was, going back and forth. And I stopped and I looked at him and these lines, I've described it so many times now, but it's these lines downloaded to me in his voice. And he was saying like, it's okay. I am okay. You have to stop worrying about me and just accept me the way I am, like I have with you. So it was kind of like that. And so I took it and I wrote it down. I mean, I enjoyed that moment, first of all, but it doesn't usually last more than 30 seconds. And sure enough, like within a, matter of moments, he was gone and back in the yard and enjoying his laying on the grass. But that kept coming to me. Like I started writing more poems and poetry in his voice, sort of as a way for me to understand what he was going through. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be able to understand that completely, but trying to figure out like how I could make his life better after all these years. We'd given him everything we possibly could, but he still wasn't free from those fears, which made me really sad. So I just kept writing. And then I would write a little bit more, and then I'd write like a longer scene, and then maybe a little bit, I'd add on another scene. And then by this time, I had met another writer in town, and I was telling her about my stories, and I was doing the self doubt of, well, I'm not really a writer. And she says, well, it sounds to me like you are a writer. So I joined her group session. She's a book coach, and she had these larger group sessions where there were, gosh, I think there were 10 of us. And it was online on Sunday nights. And I learned everything about creating that outline. And so I started to create the outline based on all of these notes that I had in these little poems. So that's a long-winded way to tell you that's how I came to write this book. But initially I was writing it as in my story, not through the voice of my dog. And then I thought, how could I make this interesting for the reader? Not that I was even envisioning a book at that time. It was just a story for me, story for my dogs. But then I started to think about what would it look like if it was through the voice of my dog. But then I knew I had to recreate scenes like a rescue mission and different things. And so I thought, okay, I think I need to create the protagonist as a different person than I am. And that's what I did. I started over and I recreated the protagonist. Her name is Renly, but Sully and Cash are in the book as themselves. So it's like a mashup of fiction and nonfiction. And so one chapter is through Renly's perspective, followed by a chapter of Sully's perspective. So he doesn't talk to humans, but he does talk to other dogs. So that's kind of how the birthing of the book, I suppose. But I never expected to be sitting here talking to you about my novel. But wow, what a trip this has been.
Absolutely. You know, I completely understand that feeling of wanting to put a story out, starting it just for your own self, and then the idea of could I write a book, and that imposter syndrome feeling that, well, I'm not a writer, who am I to completely get that. But I love that you still, moved forward and that you found the support needed to help you get it accomplished and then to put this out there for people.
I don't think that I would have done it without them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a fantastic book coach. She's now a friend. And I think that without seeing what the other writers were going through as well and some of their frustrations and what was holding them back from writing their stories, I knew I wasn't alone anymore and I wouldn't have to do it alone. So I kept joining her book session, like her coaching, group coaching, sorry. I kept joining them session after session. She's like, well, Holly, we've done this already. That's okay. I'll just keep going. And I just kept expanding until the point where I felt comfortable enough to step away and keep going on my own. But I've still joined a couple of her groups just because I enjoy it so much. And, writers are just such friendly people who are willing to share everything writing craft. And so,
Absolutely. We support each other. I get that.
Mhm.
And I like that, first of all, you met her, I think, in person. This was not someone who just randomly emailed you, because it's unfortunate that once you put a book out, or once you've started researching anything out there are people out there who start randomly emailing you saying, I am a book coach, or I am a marketer, or I am this or that. And sadly, I would say at least 90%, if not more than that, are not what they're appearing to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you had that in person, that you've got, with a solid group that's trustworthy. So that's huge, and I would caution others out there to do the same, or do the research yourself. Don't just reply to a
Mhm.
random email someone soliciting you. There might be honest to goodness people that are doing that, but there's enough people out there with bad intentions that it's not worth the risk.
Yeah, which is so unfortunate. And you're right. I mean, she was someone that I already knew. She taught at my son's high school, but I never really knew her beyond that. Um, and I haven't had I mean, I've sure been sent emails that are not from real people, but not specifically towards the book, but I'm sure that's coming. And
It's
I will
inevitable,
be very
sadly.
wary of it. Yes. And I will
Yeah.
scrutinize. So good advice,
Yeah.
Zoe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the thing I think one of the things I've most enjoyed about having this podcast forum, and having access to, a publicist like the one that you use,
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
know I'm getting credible people. I know, even if I source them myself, if once you're sitting here in front of me, and we're,
Hmm.
eye to eye, and we're looking at Amazon or wherever your book is posted, I mean, I don't think I've ever interviewed someone who was not genuinely who they said they were. Hasn't happened
Right.
yet. Even the ones I sourced myself. So thankfully, but it's been nice because then I get to see you guys. We get to interact on a author to author level and compare experiences. I learn from them more often than not. I learn from them more so than them learning from me. But I've really appreciated that about having this forum.
No, and I completely 100% agree with you because I have my podcast as well, and I really do, dare I say, handpick. But I scrutinize, not scrutinize, but I really research, and it's usually somebody who I know or someone who knows someone. So there's always a degree of knowing. Yeah.
Exactly. You need
Yeah.
that. You absolutely. So, what is the name of your podcast?
Ramblings from the Little Shed.
I
And
like
so,
it.
as you can see, I'm sort of in this wooden box here, but it's my shed, and it's where I do all of the creating, the writing, the knitting, the everything. And I've wanted to do a podcast for quite a long time as well, but I couldn't quite find that subject matter, that niche. And I suppose I just needed to have patience and wait, because fear was also on, the left or the right shoulder, whichever one, on any given day, saying, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? You're not good enough. Your voice is this, all the things, until I just took the step forward. I kept digging my heels in the sand. And so I thought, wait, my dog led me to being uber creative. I'm already a was already a creative person, but my dog directed me into this beautiful experience of writing a book. I bet you there's a whole bunch of other people out there who feel like their dogs, their cats, their guinea pigs, their rabbits have influenced their creativity in one way, shape, or another.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter what that creativity medium is. So that's why I created it. And so my son and I
that's
co-host.
very cool. So, you finished this book,
Yes.
and I have found that usually if a person writes one book and they've had that experience, suddenly it's like the idea gates and the imagination takes off. It just
Hmm.
starts firing. So, have you found that to be the case with you, where you've got this whole list of stories that you're thinking, "Ooh, this would be a great idea, and that would be a great idea," and
Hmm. Oh, yes.
yeah,
Oh, yes. It's sparking pretty good right now. I'm already writing another book. I have a full manuscript, first draft, messy, messy draft, of course. But I think that my place of comfort is definitely writing with incorporating dogs in some way or another. Not
yeah,
always talking dogs, of course, but the next one is a sweet romance, and the meet cute happens in the dog park. But I've got a long list of ideas, and who knows if they'll ever come to fruition. I let the idea sort of, I don't know, find its way to me. And yeah, I'm definitely writing the next one. But I think it's because I had been searching my whole life for something, and I think that's why I guess there's a lot of self reflection going on lately. But I've tried so many hobbies, so many activities, which I still do a lot of them, but there was always something missing until I allowed myself to fully immerse myself in the writing process. And I keep saying this, and as cheesy as it is, like writing is definitely where my heart is at home, and it just feels right. And I've got so much more to learn, but I'm a sponge right now. I'm taking classes. I've gone back to school. I'm taking it all in. I love podcasts. I attribute podcasts as well as those first group coaching sessions to teaching me. I've listened to so many podcasts, and there's so many great ones out there, and you have to find the ones that you resonate with. But they taught me so much, and I feel like I know those people on the other end of the maybe not the screen because I'm more audible, but I'm home with writing. And so yes, you're right. I've started many other storylines, and we'll see where they all go, but I'm having fun. So doesn't matter.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, although writing about animals is not my normal headspace, I will say there's a certain degree of therapeutic. I don't know how else to express this. There's some therapy that comes with it. For myself, I have a dog and two cats,
Mhm.
and up until November, I had a dog that had been raised from a puppy by my nephew, and then I later adopted her, and she was so sweet. I just absolutely loved her. I loved her so much that I didn't mind all the hair in my houses. I didn't like the hair, but I loved her
No.
so much that I overlooked it. She was a Norwegian elk hound, so super, super
Oh
hairy.
my. Yes. Gentle
But
giant. Yeah.
yes, and the sweetest, soulful eyes.
Oh,
Oh my goodness, she was such a lovely, lovely dog. But she very quickly got sick and passed away. So part of my therapy involved writing kind of a little bit about her life, and some of the things about her life and her interaction with the two cats. And I
how
ended up
nice.
adopting a dog that was basically the polar opposite of her, where she was
Really?
long hair. This one's super short hair, and just male versus female. Just every
Yeah.
possible opposite I could find, because I didn't want another duplicate. So I had written a little bit of a sketch of a story. I'll never publish it, but basically it
Okay.
was a way. It was like his name is Moses, and Moses coming
Okay.
into this house and being filled in by Orlando and Dawn about, yeah, Luna used to hear him, but she disappeared. But here's what we observed, and then Moses kind of sharing his life up until that point. But it was good therapy just to be able to process the feelings and the emotions. Like I said, I'll never publish it, but I liked that
Never. Yeah.
avenue,
That process.
just to
Yeah.
have that.
Never say never, but
True.
that is beautiful. That is beautiful to sort of honor the dog as well, and just a way to work through some of that grief.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So
For me,
your
it worked.
yeah, well, that's great. And your current dog's name, this isn't Moses.
Yeah, so the current dog is Moses. The
Okay,
previous
okay.
dog's name was Luna. I did not name
Luna.
either of them. It's just kind of this is what the previous owners called
Yep,
them, so let's keep
yep.
it continuity for them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so
So
yeah,
how
now we have
is Moses like part of the family now and just settled right in or?
very much so. One of the reasons I chose Moses, he had been with his first family for 6 years, never had been with anyone else. So I like that continuity. He had been trained, but what drew my attention was the fact that they also had two cats, and one of them was curled up next to Moses in one of the pictures, like they were just napping together. I thought, this is great.
Yeah.
He's going to come into the house, and although my cats will go through the ooh, so there's a dog in the house, phase, they actually warmed up faster to Moses than they ever did to Luna. Um,
Okay.
there was actually a moment when my cat Orlando did curl up with Moses for a nap about 2 3 weeks after he arrived. So I think that ended up being a good choice.
I mean, the closest my cat has ever curled up to either one of my dogs is at a couch length away. I wish they would cuddle up together, because it's just so comfy and cozy. But I usually have the cat on my lap and Cash is either away or vice versa. So, yeah.
I love the names of your dogs, Cash and Sully. I feel like it reminds me of like Tango and Cash, or some
Yeah.
like these type of
Yeah.
crime fighting duo type names.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just
We,
picture you doing some kind of funny story about the crime fighting
yeah. Yeah.
dogs type of thing.
The, the opposing duo. And it's funny that you mentioned that because in the book, I do put a photo of them. Like I have a little caricature and
Yeah.
it's Sully and Cash, but it doesn't flow off the tongue as well as Cash and Sully for some reason. So I've been sort of, hesitant about that, but I had to put Sully first because he's the main character in this book and Cash is just an aside, right? But yeah, thanks for saying that. I have a photo of them. Oh my gosh, it makes me laugh every time. Sully is very timid, as I said, and he just kind of lays there. And Cash is kind of almost photobombing, like a gangster kind of, I don't know, photo. And it's just hilarious. But that is truly, it's their personalities coming through that photo. Maybe I should have put that one in the book.
Future books. But yeah. So you said you're working on a manuscript for another book. Can you give us
Yeah.
any hints, any ideas about what that's shaping up to be?
Yes, definitely. I mentioned it's a sweet romance, so it will be their character names right now. I'm still working through. Sometimes, I choose names, but they don't fit, and so I have to just keep wait. I have to wait until they pop in, but that's okay. So it's a sweet romance, and the meet cute initially happens at the dog park, and it will follow their journey. But a lot of times in some of these romance books, the men tend to be the heroes. Not always, right? But
Not
I really
often.
want to flip that one on its head. And so there's going to be, he will come in and he'll do some rescuing, but there's going to be some reversed roles, let's say. And then, of course, lots of dogs. They won't be talking in this book, but they'll be um, present, is what I'm trying to say. And there's the best friend in there who's kind of jealous. So I'm really having a difficult time describing this book without giving away the plot, and
And I
I'm
don't want you to
struggling
give
through
away
it.
anything. We want to keep that as a
Oh,
surprise for
no,
the
no,
readers, but
it's
that's
fine. It's just I'm laughing at myself because I can hear myself struggling to describe this book, but it's like, "Oh, it's a romance. Yeah, okay. Well, what else?"
I get you. I
But
get
it's
you.
fun. I've had so much fun writing that one, and it's spilled out of me as well. So, we'll see. We'll see where this leads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be great. Part of me is thinking, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if the man wasn't so much the hero as maybe, assuming that he has a dog, if the dog was the hero assisted by the man. But
Well,
that's
I can
just
tell you that he has two corgis, but they're not his, they're his mom's. So, yeah, a bit of an interesting, because she meets him, he comes to the park and he's this, whatever you want, suave, good-looking, handsome man, but he has these two little corgis, which doesn't quite fit the bill. I mean, sometimes we do tend to make preconceived judgments based on the dog, which is kind of funny.
it
And
is true.
isn't
We
it? Yeah.
always assume that dogs resemble
Mhm.
their owners, and so if
Mhm.
depending on how the dog behaves or
Yeah.
looks, we
Yeah.
assume the same about their human.
Yeah. But there will be a whole other story. So they're part of his family, these two corgis, but not his.
Absolutely. In your podcast, and I know yours is still on the newer side of things, but have you had the opportunity to meet Michael Hinkson? He was a survivor from 911
Well,
with his dog.
actually, I will be meeting him very soon. Not on my
Okay.
podcast, on his, but
Oh,
I would love, love, love if he would grace me with his presence on mine. I think that that would be an honor to talk to him about his life. So, yes.
yeah. I am
Yeah.
betting that that could be arranged. He was one of the first
Yeah.
guests that his publicist put my direction, same
Oh,
publicist that you
nice.
have. So, in
Okay.
all likelihood, that may be
Okay.
possible.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting for me to have my understanding adjusted as to how the dynamic is between a man and his guide dog.
Mhm.
That was, I
Okay.
think, one of the most interesting things about that interview with Michael
Good.
was it really did change my perspective. So I'll leave it alone there. But
Yeah.
I'm betting your conversation with him might fire off some more ideas for future stories or angles for stories for you.
Right. Well, I must check out that episode of yours then. That would be a really
Be my
great
guest.
listen. Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was in the early days, June or July. It was fairly early in my broadcast history, I guess, for lack of a
Yeah.
better way to put that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about right. Podcast career.
That works. Now, see, I come from a different angle than you. So you said you had always dreamed of doing that.
Yes.
Um, for me, I had never even considered having a broadcast
Okay.
until after I had published my first couple of books, and I was trying to
Okay.
figure out a budget-friendly way to promote my books. And so, being on someone else's podcast, not even a thought in my head until I had been trying to advertise like through Facebook social pages, and I went to some other pages that weren't directly about books, but were about, hey, this is maybe where my potential readers are going to be.
Right.
And I happened to stumble upon a, what do you call it? People who provide guidance for other people.
Like a
Totally drawing a blank
mentor?
on what that's called.
A
Not so much a
mentor or
mentor. Oh, goodness. It's going to come to me later.
okay.
But regardless, whatever her
Yeah.
official
Yeah.
title is, she gave me 20 minutes of her time for free.
Okay.
But we had a phone conversation, and she's like, Zoey, when you picture yourself being an author, what does that mean to you? Like, what is the job description of an author? And so we kind of talked through it a little bit, and
Right.
about like what that would look like, including the not just the writing part of things, but also the promoting yourself part of things. And she gave me the nudge I needed to reach out to, first of all, I even understand like where do I go to even be a podcast guest,
Right.
because totally foreign concept to me. And so she really, I credit with getting me in that direction of, first of all, being a
Yeah.
guest.
Okay.
Still not thinking to have a podcast.
Oh,
but
okay. I'm anxious to know
but
when that shift happened.
yeah, yeah, it actually happened. The idea that I could do this was
Mhm.
after I was a guest with a gentleman whose podcast was about grief. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm drawing a blank on his name too at this moment. But the
Yeah.
nicest fellow, super super
Yeah.
nice. Let me get out, about the book I was trying to promote in that particular session. And as we're having this conversation, and I'm thinking back in my mind, I could probably do this.
Hmm.
Um, and then talking to him afterwards, he gave me like another hour of his time afterwards just to ask some general questions like, how did you become a podcaster? And how does this work? And,
Right.
so he was very easy to talk to during the podcast and very friendly, helpful, willing to give advice afterwards. And I still wasn't sold that I was going to do it, but the idea that it was possible was born in that first
Oh,
podcast
that's
session.
awesome.
So yeah.
And sometimes don't you find it's just that you need the nudge or that one person who will reframe it for you or redirect you or even say the right words that you never believed before. That one, like my friend now had said to me, "Well, I think you're already a writer." And I kind of gave her a look like, "What? What do you mean?" And I'll never forget that. That was a life-changing moment. So by that individual giving you his time so that you could understand how to podcast, that's what I want to give back to people as well. Like one day, I don't know what this looks like, and it keeps coming up, but I would love to do some sort of mentorship program for free.
Yeah,
Like just if somebody needs help, I just want to be able to help, like so many have done to me now. So we'll
that's an
see.
excellent goal. That's a
Yeah,
nice thing.
it's on the goal. It's on the board right there.
Nice. So, do you have a website?
I sure do. Ramblingsfromthelittleshed.com. Yeah.
Easy, straightforward. I
I'm
like it.
trying to keep it all nice and clean.
Well,
Yeah.
and I wonder, it'd be really interesting if you could do like a little play on words with that, with for like any mentorship, mentoring from
Yeah,
the
good
little
good
shed or
idea.
something. So
So
you could have like
funny
a
enough,
page off of
yes,
that.
very good idea. Yeah, I will definitely take note of that. And if we back it up even further, before wanting to create a podcast, what I really wanted to create, you ready for this? Was a
I'm ready.
knitting podcast. Okay?
Wow,
I know.
interesting.
I know. So I've been knitting since I'm 20. And, that's when 20-year-old knitters were called grannies for, lack of a
I've
better
never heard that,
name.
but okay.
Well, like if you were knitting or crocheting in your young years, people would be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, come on, that's a older person's hobby." Well, I never stopped knitting, but recently, like with COVID and everything, there was this massive resurgence of hobbies.
True.
Knitting was one of them. Knitting never went away, nor did anything else like embroidery or crochet, but it's had this resurgence and it's having its moment again now with the younger generation. Anyways, with that, they created these channels of YouTube knitting podcasts, vlogs, they call them. Some of them call them podcasts. And I thought, oh, so I think I had a little bit of FOMO there, but I was like envious and I want to do that. So that's what I wanted to do. So before this episode with you, Zoey, I sat back here in the shed and I recorded a little trailer because that one is, um, oh my goodness, what's the word? Not just audio, but it's video as well. So definitely taking myself out of my comfort zone once again because when I do podcasts, it's just audio. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to do. So I'm going to take, a crack at it and watch the video about a few thousand times and overanalyze it another million times and see where we go from
Don't
there.
do that. Don't overanalyze. Just jump in.
No,
Just
just
jump
do it.
in. Just do what you love. Find other people who love
Yeah,
it so you can,
yeah,
have that
yeah.
during the podcast. But yeah, don't overthink it. I
No, you're
find
right.
that
You're
when
right.
I
Yeah.
overthink things, I talk myself out of it every time.
Every
Don't do
time.
that to yourself.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Well, but it's also figuring out the digital aspects of some of these things. Not always easy, but we figure
I
it out.
suppose that's true. But yeah,
Mhm.
don't overanalyze. If nothing else, give it a try. If it doesn't look good, rework it and then try again. Just like anything in life, you bake a cake.
Yeah.
Whoops, I forgot the eggs. Well, let's bake the next cake and let's remember the eggs next time.
Yeah.
Just life is
So
trial and
logical.
error.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's easy to be logical when it's not your life, right? When it's someone else,
Yeah.
it's always easy to give advice. It's when it's yourself, we're our own
Mhm.
worst enemies.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you see me fumbling around my desk, I'm realizing that as we get closer to the end of our program, that I want to make sure I can find the note that with the last person's question. So you just saw me like going, okay, where's this notebook at?
That's right.
We had slowed down a little bit during the holiday season. I didn't have as many interviews. And so I
Mhm.
put a lot of my things away. Usually my desk area is covered with stuff. It's because I'm using it. And so it is a
Yeah.
organized mess because that's the way I roll. But of course I
That's
put
fine.
things
Yep.
away. So
Mhm.
the first
Mhm. If you can't
broadcast I went,
find them.
ooh, I forgot my notebooks and I had to make up my own question instead of using the one from the last guest I had. Like, we're not doing that
Right.
today.
All right, lay it on me.
Yep. So the random question that was most recently given. Oh, I think this is going to be good for our conversation. What gives you the most joy in your life? And what is the thing you would most want to change? Two-part question.
Mhm. I love the question of joy because that's definitely a theme that comes up a lot from my life. So what gives me the most joy? No.
Mhm.
What?
Yeah. What gives you
Yeah.
the most joy in your life?
Mm. Oh gosh, so many things. I mean, I have to say family first, right? And then dogs. But if I'm funneling it down to myself and what I do,
Yes.
I would say creating the stories. The creation process gives me the most joy. The writing does too, but back it up to the outlining, the making it up, like, oh, now she goes there and she's going to take this direction. She's this type of person. That's where I get the most joy. And if I could change one thing in my life, it would be I don't want to speed up time, but I wish I could retire so I could write full time.
I
Yeah.
completely hear you on that. If there
That's
was
what
a
I would
way
change.
to afford
Mhm.
to be able to continue my life and
Yes.
lifestyle, still
Yes.
be today without having the financial worries that require me to work full time, so I could just write or dream. Yes,
Yes.
I'm right there with
That's
you
what I
on
would do.
that. Yeah,
So I
exactly.
guess I either need to start buying lotto tickets or, well, that's really the only option. So
I get you.
I will
There are
not be
moments
robbing
I'm
any bank.
like, yeah, I think, move to another country where it's cheaper to live. But then, of course, you leave all your friends and family behind, and I
Yeah.
like my friends and
Yeah.
my family.
Yeah. Something to be said
But
about them.
but I do think about it every now and then. I'm like, if I was living such and such country, I could make my dollars stretch. If I could just get my employer to allow me to work remotely down there instead of
Mhm.
remotely
Mhm.
here in the state of such and such.
Right.
But we just
Yeah.
have to earn our way, and it is what it is.
One day I will be retired. And then
That's right.
I'll be wishing I had these days back. So, yeah. It's nice to dream, but I try to remind myself don't wish your time away.
It's true. And the thing
Mhm.
is, too, if I could go back in time, there was a point in time back when I was married that we were living in Ecuador, and I was looking for ways to fill my time at that point in time, and I opted to teach English online. But it didn't occur to me back then to pick up with writing. If I could go back in time now and capture that time,
Yeah. Yeah.
now I know what I would do with that time. I would get lost in my imaginary world and write.
Yeah.
So, for those
Yeah.
of you who do have the circumstances, who've ever thought about writing, if you have the circumstances, take advantage of it now. If you've got a
Mhm.
husband who wakes up with these detailed dreams and you say to yourself, this would be a great book, listen to that. I used to get so frustrated when my ex-husband would wake up with these detailed dreams, and he'd start talking immediately. I couldn't even remember what I dreamed because he'd start
Right.
talking.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
kept thinking, man, I could make some stories with those dreams. Now I wish I
Mhm.
had.
You know what I'm finding really funny in the last few weeks is how everyone is giving me story ideas. Do you know what I think would
Mm,
be a great idea for a story? How about this? You know what? I've got this idea I've had brewing in my head for quite some time. Like I just find it hilarious, fun. Like I think it's cute, it's fun that but you can see that they're also creative. They just haven't
right.
ventured into, that hobby or
True.
yeah.
So true. And they might never
Yeah.
do it. My family
No,
did that
no.
too. They're
No.
like, oh, write this story, Generation X, we don't
Mhm.
care. I'm
Mhm.
like, well, that sounds
Yeah.
great, but it sounds like your story.
Yeah. I was joking with my husband yesterday. I said, I think I should write a book about forgotten storylines or lost storylines or all of the, because in the last 2 weeks, I'm starting to write them down just for fun, just to see where this goes,
Yeah.
you know?
Who knows? They might
But
find a way, maybe not as a separate story, but maybe
yeah,
weaved into an
yeah,
existing story.
yeah, you
So
never know.
it's always good, I think, to listen to people's ideas because it might spark an original idea of your own tangent off of what they came up with. Um, I actually had a really fun conversation. It was either the podcast episode before you or two podcast episodes ago. But she was talking about how her story was in this old town where she grew up and how things have changed so much. So you've got these old buildings that are historical, and then you've got these brand new buildings that don't make sense on that same street. They're,
Right.
too new. But I thought, what a cool idea if it was a street where it was like purely about time travel. And if you go into this door of this new place, boom, you're in the future. If you go into this one that's the historical, then you go into maybe the year it was built and into the past.
Mm,
But I wouldn't have thought of that had I not had that conversation with her.
that's right.
So
I love how ideas just come up. I was in a town down in the southern part of this province. And same thing, we were in this older town where the house, like the front of the houses, were so different, so eclectic. And I thought, every one of these houses is a character. And if I
yes,
anthropomorphize the houses, the stories they could tell of the people that were there. So you're right.
exactly.
Like it could be someone who gives us an idea. It could be just a word or a line we read in a book, but it sparks something new. You think all the ideas are already captured, but there's so many ways to tell a story.
Absolutely. Well, and time and life changes. The things that we
Mm,
have around us now, 100 years ago,
yeah,
some of these things just did not exist. Fodder for new
right.
stories and new tangents. I mean, the more things
Even a
change,
new
the more
vocabulary.
potential
Yeah,
stories there are, right?
exactly. But even
Yeah.
vocabulary has shifted. We use words now that were not even thought of.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the language,
Yeah.
how it changes. Incidentally, the words I was looking for earlier, life coach. That's
Yeah.
what I was looking for instead of
Life
mentor.
coach. Yes.
But I could
Yes.
not
Yes.
remember
Life
that
coach.
for the life of me.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of even new jobs, new careers like life coaches. I don't think you heard about life coaches even 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. I don't think a life
No.
coach
No.
was a
Or book coach.
thing that people did, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
I love how people
it's
are
amazing.
reinventing themselves.
Exactly. And And as they do that, it reshapes the world around us and gives more opportunities that we never knew were there. Little
That's right.
crevices of opportunity.
Yeah.
So, we had the random question for you. We need a random question from you for the
My,
next person.
my. As a writer, I should be able to come up with a question pretty quick.
Just
Um,
whatever hits your mind. It doesn't have to be profound. You know,
okay.
I've had some crazy questions and I've had some profound ones, but at the end of the day, we're just having fun.
Okay. Well, I would say postcards or index cards. Which do you
Okay.
prefer?
See? Interesting.
Very random,
Yep,
but I
we like
have
that.
both. And yeah, so we'll see what people like out there.
So I have
The
to ask,
connoisseurs of supplies, office supplies.
do, when you're talking about postcards, you're not talking about like the kind you would mail to someone like when you're on vacation. It sounds like you use them in a different way.
You're right, but I now that you're taking me there, I almost wish I would have worded it that way because I loved postcards. No, like the index cards, where writers tend to write ideas, or sometimes if you're studying for an exam, I would use index cards versus the little post-it notes. But I use both. See, so
So you're talking about post-it notes, not postcards. Okay.
yes,
So
in like
post-it
so these
notes.
index cards
Yeah.
versus the brand name post-its.
Okay. Yeah. I heard postcards, so that's where I was trying to go.
Yep.
Okay. But
But
now I
now I kind of
understand.
wish I would have went into that direction though, because I do love postcards. And I think this new buzzword analog is making it's just blowing up everywhere. And postcards will likely come back as well because the younger generations are turning to letter writing and talking on the phone and hobbies with our hands like knitting. So postcards are going to come back too. It's hard to
I'd say
find postcards
so.
nowadays.
I hadn't thought about that. I guess I haven't really
Hmm.
looked because usually when I think of postcards, I think of, touristy areas,
Hmm.
going down to, I don't know, somewhere in Florida or some touristy type of place. I don't really look for them otherwise. Um,
Right.
but for people who don't love to letter write, postcards are the
Mhm.
best because you can do something
Yep.
short and sweet and you've got this great
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't been aware that they disappeared a bit.
They sort of did. I mean, I've been looking for them. I look for them everywhere I go, and other than the post office, I don't see them anywhere other than like what you said in a tourist shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's about
Yeah.
it.
That's something. I'm gonna have to pay more attention, I think, going forward
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
see if I can spot them other places where you wouldn't expect to see them.
Let's
It's
bring the
food for
postcard back,
thought.
Zoe.
I think so. Make me think maybe I want to create some of my own.
Definitely. I've quilted postcards. I've had lots of fun making postcards. I've even like made little tiny quilts into postcards and
Oh,
mailed them.
that's cool. That's very cool. I
Fun.
like that. I
Yeah.
love the creativity of it.
Hmm.
Makes me wonder what our audience out there, what they would come up with if they were going to design their own postcard.
Such a fun
Does it have
activity. I
to
definitely
be a
have some
picture?
ideas for poetry and postcards that's
Yes.
sort of been swirling. So, never know.
Let's bring postcards back.
Let's bring them back.
Let's make them for people who don't have time to write a letter. Just drop a postcard.
Yes.
Just I was thinking about you.
Wouldn't that be
Very
nice?
cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Stick around afterwards. I've got some more information to share with you, but we're going to stop the recording. Did you have one last thing you wanted to share with our audience before we cut off the recording?
Just follow your heart. Like, and it sounds cheesy, but truly, if you have an idea, do it. And Zoe has encouraged me to keep going with my knitting podcast. And so you may just see a knitting podcast out there in the world tonight. So thank you, Zoe.
Very
Thanks for the
cool.
opportunity. I really appreciate it.
We're glad you came on board. Here we go.